It's quite common on the regents to give you 2 points and ask you for the equation of that line. And really, I think that what they're really going for here is for you to recognize different forms of the equation of a line. So what I like to do when I'm given 2 points is find the slope. And what I do is, of course, delta y over delta x. That's the definition of slope. That just means subtract the y values between the points and then put that over the fraction for the difference of the x values. So here, I could do, let's say that this 4 right here, that's y1, and this is y2. So y2 minus y1. I could reverse that order, right? But I'm going to stick with this point first, and then subtract the y values in this point from that. So then we have negative 5 minus 5. And we're done essentially with slope. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. Right? That reduces to a positive value, and it reduces to 2/5. So that's our slope, and now we need to find the y-intercept. So here, I'm going to use my y equals mx plus b format. And m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So we just need to find the b value. So to do that, I'm going to plug in my slope, and then I'm going to plug in one of the 2 points. So I'll plug in the first point, right? And we're almost done. So 2/5 of 5, that's just 2, right? The 5's cancel out. And 2 plus b equals 4. So subtract 2 from both sides, and we realize, of course, that b equals 2. So our equation will be y equals 2/5 x plus 2. That's our equation. Okay, next one. What is the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points? So now we're just finding the slope. So m is slope, delta x over delta y over delta x, right? So we subtract our y values, get that difference, and put over the difference of our x values. In this case, I'll start with the second point as the y2 and x2 point. So negative 4 minus 1 goes on our numerator, negative 4 minus 1 over 4 minus negative 6. So 4 minus negative 6. And what do we get? Well, negative 4 minus 1, that's negative 5. 4 minus negative 6 is 10, right? Because we add that 6. And we get negative 1/2, or choice 3. Okay, we keep going. Which equation represents a line that is parallel to this line? Well, parallel lines have equal slopes, right? So parallel lines have equal slopes. Perpendicular lines are different. If you come across a perpendicular line, perpendicular lines are not equal in slope. And for perpendicular lines, the slopes are negative reciprocals. And that just means when you multiply the two slopes, the product is negative 1. So for example, if one slope is 2, it's perpendicular to a slope, this is a sign for perpendicular and upside down t, of negative 1/2. You can think of almost flipping the number. Because if you multiply 2 and negative 1/2, you do get negative 1. So if you multiply the slopes and you get, or negative slopes, negative reciprocals. If you multiply your slopes and you get a negative 1, then they are perpendicular. If the slopes are equal, they're parallel. Well, here in this equation, negative 4 represents slope. So here, choice 1 is the answer because it also has an equal slope. So as long as it has an equal slope, you're pretty much good for it to be parallel. The only exception is if the y-intercepts are the same. For example, if they gave you y equals, or 2y equals negative 8x plus 10. Same equation, just double everything. And if I reduce this, I would get y equals negative 4x plus 5, except here the slopes are equal, right? But so are the y-intercepts. When that happens, they're essentially the exact same line, and you would call them collinear, not just parallel. So parallel lines need to have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. Which equation is parallel to the x-axis? Well, remember, you have your two axes here, right? You have your y-axis and your x-axis. And an equation that's parallel to the x-axis would look something like this line right here. And when you have this line up here, The only thing that's constant about it is its height from the x-axis. So perhaps maybe the height of this is 3 or 4, right? So 1, 2, 3. So here y equals 3, the height equals 3, and all these different points have different x values, right? So the slope isn't going up or down, and y is always equal to 3. In that case, we would call this line y equals 3. If we had a line, let's say, down here, well, maybe that would be y equals negative 3. For any of these lines that are parallel to the x-axis, they're going to be in this form where y equals some number because the slope is equal to 0, it's a flat line, and the height is the only thing that's constant. So here the choice is 1, y equals negative 5. All these other lines here are not parallel to the x-axis. Let's just take a look. If x equals 3, 1, 2, 3, that's a vertical line, right? That would be x equals 3. If y equals negative 5x, that would be a slope with a line with a negative slope. So down 5, slope is negative 5, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 through the origin. It would be this steep line here. Y equals negative 5x. X equals 3y. Well, I divide 3 on both sides, so I can get x divided by 3 equals y. And now you have a line with a positive slope of 1/3. So up 1 over 3. So maybe a point like right there. So that would be this less steep but positive line, x equals 3y, or y equals 1/3 x. So the only parallel lines here are when y equals something and x equals something, however, is parallel to the y-axis. Okay, what is the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points? Negative 5, 4, and 15, negative 4. Again, slope is just delta y over delta x. That means you just subtract the y's over and then subtract the x's and write a ratio of y, the difference of the y's, over the difference of the x's. So for y, you have negative 4 minus 4, that's negative 8. And for x's, we have 15 minus negative 5, so we add 5, it's 20. So we reduce this, divide both by, let's say, 2, we get negative 4 over 10, reduce it again, negative 2/5. So here our slope is 1, negative 2/5. What is an equation of a line that passes through these 2 points? Oh, this point and this slope. So there are many different ways to deal with this. I really like using y equals mx plus b format, that's slope-intercept format, because here they give you the slope of 2, and they give you the point 3, negative 1. So 3 is for x, and negative 1 is for y, plus b. So we have to solve for b. That's our y-intercept. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus b equals negative 1. Subtract 6 from both sides. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. That equals b. Putting this back together, y equals 2x, because the slope is 2, plus negative 7 or minus 7, right? Keeping that format. So here we have choice 4. What is an equation of a line that passes through these 2 points? So here we have 3, negative 3, and negative 3, negative 3. Our slope is going to be equal to the difference of the y values, negative 3 minus negative 3, over difference of the x values, negative 3 minus 3. So what's negative 3 minus negative 3? Well, we subtract the negative, so we add. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, right? Over anything except for 0 is going to be 0. Fortunately, here this is over 0. Clear that off. Sorry. Let's fix this. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. 0 over negative 6 is 0. When your slope is 0, y equals 0x plus something. We want to know what that something is. But if the slope is equal to 0, right, the y-intercept, notice in both of these, is at negative 3. And it's the x values that are changing. So if the slope is at 0 and you have a height of negative 3, you're always going to have a height of negative 3. You can always picture this line here on the y-axis. Right, they give you these points 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, negative 3. So you give this point here, and negative 3 here. So the slope is 0, it's this vertical, horizontal line where y is always equal to negative 3. So the y-intercept is negative 3 as well. So y equals 0x plus b, or y equals 0 plus negative 3, or just negative 3. So y equals negative 3, which is choice 3. Okay, what's the slope of a line that passes through these 2 points? Well, slope is delta y over delta x, so we subtract our y's, 3 minus 5, and then it's over our x's, our difference of our x's. 7 minus 2. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 7 minus 2 is 5, we get negative 2/5. Choice 2. Okay. Which equation represents a line that is parallel to this line right here? Well, again, lines are parallel if the slopes are equal and the y-intercepts are different. If the y-intercepts were the same, it would just be the same line. That would be called collinear. Here, the slope is negative 2, right? Because the slope in this format, mx plus b format, is just the coefficient of the x variable, which is negative 2. So the only other choice here that has a slope of negative 2 will be parallel to this line. So I'm going to eliminate choice 3 because the slope is negative 4. I'm going to eliminate choice 4 because the slope is 4. We're looking for a slope of negative 2. It must be one of these here. So let's just rewrite the way they're presented. 4x plus 2y equals 5. We subtract 4x on both sides. Our goal is to get it into mx plus b format. And 2y equals 5 minus 4x. So when I divide both sides by 2, right, we get what? Y equals 5 halves minus 2x. So here the slopes are the same and the y-intercepts are different, so they're parallel. And that's just choice number 1. Okay, let's keep going. The table below represents the number of hours a student worked and the amount of money they earned. Write an equation. Okay, so where D is the number of dollars earned and H is the amount of work. So H is independent and D is dependent because the hours you work determine the amount of money you'll be making here. So I'm going to look for a slope here. I notice that here, when I go from 8 to 15, right, our slope is 43.75 over 7, right? It's the dollars earned, or delta y, over the number of hours worked, delta x. So this equals our slope. So we can simplify this. We get 43.75 divided by 7. We get 6.25. So that's the amount of dollars, delta y, over for every hour, delta x. So we want to use this now to find the y-intercept. Well, y equals mx plus b. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. We have m now, it's 625. So we have y equals 625 x plus b. And to find out what b equals, the y-intercept, we can plug in our y and x values, which of course are d for dollars earned, that's y. And number of hours is x, right? The number of hours you work tells you how much money you'll be earning. So we can plug in any of these points to solve for the b. So I'll plug the first one in. So here we have 6.25 times 8, and right, that has to equal 50 when we add b. All right, so 625 times 8 is 50, right? And so 50 plus b equals 50. 50 plus b equals 50. If we solve here, we subtract 50 from both sides, we get b equals 0. So that means our equation is y equals 6.25x plus 0, or just y equals 6.25x. You can test that here. This means that if this is true, we multiply our number of hours by 6.25 and we get the dollars earned. So 19 times 6.25 should equal 118.75, and it does. Just replace it with the appropriate variables and you're finished. So they say D, number of dollars earned, equals 6.25 times hours, the hours you've worked. Using this equation, determine the number of hours the student will earn working for 40 hours. So D equals 6.25 times 40. And what does that equal? Well, 40 times 6.25 is $250. Make sure you use the equation here to represent your work. What is an equation of a line that passes through this point and has this slope? So the slope has to be -3, but it has to pass through the point 4, -6. So I think the fastest way to do that is to plug this point into the choices they give you. In the first one, y equals -3 times 4 plus 6. -3 times 4 is -12. Plus 6, right, is -6. So actually we found it on the first shot. The idea is that if you plug in the point and it bounces the equation you're looking at, it is the answer, right? -3 times 4 is -12, plus 6 is -6. If we try to plug into the other ones, let's just see what happens. Let's plug it into choice 4. So if that was correct, it would be balanced, but what will happen if it's not correct? How will we know? Well, we plug this point in again. Y is -6. Does that equal -3 times 4 plus 14, excuse me? The answer is no, because -6 does not equal -12 plus 14. -12 plus 14 is just 2, and 2 does not equal -6. So these two are not equal, it's not balanced. That's how you can tell if you found the wrong answer. Found an equation that doesn't work for that point. Write an equation that is parallel to the y-axis. Remember, our y-axis is a vertical axis going up and down, right? And anything parallel to it has an undefined slope. So for example, you can have a vertical line here. Maybe that's at x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here, x is always equal to 5, but y could be any point above or below the line. So here we would just call this line x equals 5. So if you see a line that says x equals a number, like this one, number 2, you would get a line parallel to the y-axis. If you said y equals something, it's parallel to the x-axis, right? So if you saw a line like this, 1, 2, right, this would be y equals 2, because the height of this line is always 2, and the slope is 0. Which point lies on the equation whose equation is the following? So if your point lies in this line, that means you should plug this into the formula and it will be balanced. Let's start with choices 3 and 4. So we have 2x minus 3y equals 9. If we plug in 0, do we get 3? If we do, then it's a solution for the line. So 2 times 0 minus 3 times 3, does that equal 9? 2 times 0 is 0 minus, sorry, I just realized we should plug in 0 and get 3, but another way of looking at it is to plug in 0 and 3 and see if the equation is balanced. And here you can see it's not. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3 times 3 is minus 9. That's -9, and -9 does not equal 9. So choice 3 is not a good one. Let's try choice 4. We have 2 times 0 minus 3 times -3. Does that equal 9? 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 3 times -3, or plus 9. And that does equal 9. 9 equals itself. So that's choice number 4. Which equation of the line passes through these 2 points? 1, 3, and 8, 5. Okay, so we're looking for the slope here. That'll help us. 1, 3, 8, 5. Subtract our y values for the slope. So 5 minus 3 over the difference of our x values. 8 minus 1. 8 minus 1. So that's 5 minus 3 is 2. 8 minus 1 is 7. So our slope is 2/7, and I realize they all have that, so it's not really going to help us. Let's plug in the points into these equations and see if they balance the equation. Plug in 1 and 3. So here, we'll plug it into choice 3. The number 3 is for y, so 3 minus 1, does that equal 2/7 times 1 plus 3? So x plus 3. So 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 times 2/7 is 8/7, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So we get 2. Does that equal 4 times 2/7? 8/7. No, it does not. right? So that's not an option there. Y plus 5, so 3 plus 5, the y point here, I'll use this point, equals 2/7 times 1 minus 8. 3 plus 5, that equals 8. 1 minus 8 is -7, right? And -7 times 2/7, those 7's cancel out, and we get -2, and these things are not equal. All right, 2 more to go. Here, again, we get 3 minus 5 equals 2/7 times 1 minus 8. Okay, what's 3 minus 5? That's -2, right? 3 minus 5 equals -2. 2/7 of 1 minus 8, sorry. 1 minus 8 is -7. -7 times 2/7 is -2. Oh, so this one finally works. So we get -2 on both sides, right? 2/7 times 1 minus 8 equals 2/7 times -7. The 7's cancel out to a -1. Multiply that by 2, we get -2. So in both cases, we get -2. I would choose choice number 2. All right. Which equation represents the line that passes through these 2 points? Okay, so let's find the slope by subtracting our y values. Let's do 3 minus 7. 3 minus 7 is -4 over the difference of the x's. 3 minus -3, right? 3 minus -3, which is 3 plus 3, or 6. So we get -4/6 reduces to -2/3. Okay, so we have choice 1 is gone, choice 2 is gone. It's going to be choice 3 or 4, but the easy way to tell if it's +5 or +9 is by finding that y-intercept, that b value that they're showing you right here. So y equals -2/3 x plus b. We can plug in x and y from one of these points. I'll use the positive point. We get 3 so we get -3 equals -2/3 times 3, right, plus b. These 3's cancel out. -2 plus b equals 3. And the answer, if you add 2 to both sides, is 5. So here we should get choice number 3, which is -2/3 x plus 5. Thanks.